tell us a little bit about the campaigning that her organisation's carried out. So over to you, Susie.
Well, thanks, and really, really interesting to hear that, you know, all of the fantastic work that all the different groups are doing. So it's a real privilege to be amongst you today, and obviously very happy to share anything that you might be of use. And I think what we'll get out of today maybe is just to get an overview. But certainly if there's anything that people feel it would be more useful to drill down into, we can always, you know, maybe sort of supplement that in the future. We can have separate meetings about it where people feel it would be helpful. So, you know, because we would really like to build, you know, links with community groups like yourselves, and to share what we're doing and to try and help amplify the messages that you're trying to give out as well and give you support. So never be afraid to come knocking on SHAC's door. So I'll just do a little bit of introduction to myself. I worked for the regulator for social housing that mainly regulates housing associations. So our focus is really on housing associations. And although the regulator did kind of nominally regulate councils as well, they had really very little, you know, control over what councils do. And in fact, they have very little control over what housing associations do. And so all of that time, I was a trade unionist as well, first with Unison and then with Unite. And I was a member of the Unite Housing Workers branch secretary of that branch. And we were very outward looking, and we realized that actually if we could organize some of our campaigns to win industrial gains, but if we could do that working with tenants and residents, we'd be even stronger and there'd be a bigger gain because there'd be improvements for everyone. So if you think about it, where a housing association is maybe cutting the number of neighbourhood managers that it's got and giving all of the remaining neighbourhood managers a much bigger patch, you know, an unrealistic size of patch to kind of work with, that's a disadvantage to the tenants and it's a disadvantage to the workers as well. So if we combined forces, we would be able to campaign much better. So that was our initial thinking. And we set up a network where we networked with tenants and residents associations. So it was a form of kind of community unionism. And then that just grew and grew, that side of it grew and grew. And we ended up setting up the Social Housing Action Campaign. And that now is independent of the Unite Housing Workers branch, although obviously we work very, very closely with our colleagues in Unite as well. And I no longer work for the regulator. I'm now working for a different organisation, but more or less a full-time volunteer really with the Social Housing Action Campaign. And honestly, it does give plenty of work to keep at least one person going full-time, if not a whole army of people. And I'm just going to show, so what we do is we have the overarching organisation, the Social Housing Action Campaign, and then for different landlords, we organise subgroups of their tenants who meet together. They devise the plan, so it's all driven by what they see as being the priorities and what they feel we should be working on. They devise the plan and they devise how they want to campaign, and SHAC is really there to give them that support and the tools to be able to campaign. And obviously we have our own social media, we have our own website, and we'll organise in-person protests as well and things like that. We have a very, very small budget. We're not a charity. We aren't funded by anybody. We don't have any workers. You know, we just scrabble together resources where we can. So we're just like every other community group, sort of trying to work the best we can, really. I'm just going to share my screen now. And show you some of the things that we've actually done. Let's do that one. And let's go up to the beginning. Right, so if we start from here, can everybody see that? It's not absolutely essential that people can see everything, but hopefully it's coming up.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, oops, it's going ahead a bit here. So you can actually see it. Sorry, I think this is on a timer. So if you look, our Clarion group, for example, the issue that they had was around the fact that Clarion wouldn't listen to them. So theirs was to hang flags over balconies and out of their windows and over their doors, which would, sorry about this, it keeps jumping forwards, but and their kind of slogan was "See us heroes." And then with London and Quadrant, the issues were about the problems that they had with disrepairs. So they've run a sort of Twitter and social media campaign with L&Q Fix Our Broken Homes, and just all these different descriptions about the problems that their home, that they've experienced in their homes, and we've been putting those up. And we're now starting to translate those into films. So we've done our first little film, which is we posted on social media. I'm just going to stop that because that's annoying me. But we posted it on social media. A little film that we did was just, it's about 1.5 minutes long, with someone describing their experiences as an L&Q tenant when they phoned up to report a leak into their home, and the response they got, because he's got a mental illness, the people that he was talking to were saying somehow this must be linked to him having a mental illness, that's why, it was just a really bizarre response. But it just shows what people are facing when they try and deal with these landlords. With One Housing Group, which is another one of our big rogue housing associations, we did the L&Q Guilty protest. And I think you can see we left them, I don't know if people have heard of clean graffiti, but we left them some graffiti outside. It's legal, it's entirely legal, because they're that's OHG. So we were protesting about a piece of lead that had fallen from one of the roofs of the buildings, and that you can see me delivering the bit of lead. You can see the size of it. We were delivering it to the chief executive there outside their headquarters. We took it to him. We had a protest outside. One of our tenants at the bottom right, you can see one of our tenants wrapped herself in fragile tape. And obviously that made it, quite, we made quite a visible sort of campaign around that. Probably our most important campaign has been the rent and service charge strike, which is where people withhold either part or all of their rent or service charge in protest as something that the landlord is doing or not doing. And we collectivize that. So it's not just one tenant who is then vulnerable to being, evicted or anything like that. They have any kind of, problem with the housing association coming down really hard on them. We were able to give support to people and create a group, set up a group specifically so that people who were wanting to use that tactic had support from SHAC to do it. And that's our, Hitting Where It Hurts campaign. And if you look at the little banner on the right, those are all the organisations where we now have people who are taking some kind of strike, either rent or service charge. So that's been probably one of our most important campaigns, and we're trying to sort of grow that tactic, really. It's very, very powerful, particularly where you've got smaller landlords. And the other one that I think is just worth kind of drawing to your attention with, the right kind of media exposure at the right time, was where Hyde Housing Association, which again is one of our biggest kind of rogue landlords, were put up some scaffolding up the side of a building, a tower block. Children were able to get onto the scaffolding and climb up to the roofs. And you can see the children on the roof of this tower block. One of our tenants photographed it and sent it to us, which, I mean, my stomach churns every time I see this picture still. And when the tenants phoned the housing association refused. They could move it around the back, in which case it was in an enclosed space and it was much more difficult to climb on. And they refused to do it. They wouldn't put any alarms on there either. So these children were getting access to the roof, and it was just an accident waiting to happen. So we put it up and we put it out on social media, and we got a panicked phone call from Hyde straight away saying, can you tell us who you reported it to? They wanted to pick on one member of staff, and we said, no, we're not going to tell you who it was. You need to deal with this problem. And by the way, you've got a lot of other problems you need to deal with as well. But within less than a day of us putting this up, the scaffolding was taken down and moved to the back of the building, which is exactly where we said it should be in the first place and where the tenants have been saying it. So potentially, you know, the tenant action saved, you know, the lives possibly of children, but other people as well, you know, and obviously that is a really important victory and an important achievement for us. So those are the kind of things that we do, but just coming on to the methods for how we campaign and how we do that, I'm going to show you some resources. I'm going to stop sharing that one if it's all right, and we can talk about any of this stuff that you feel would be helpful. And we go to our website. So if we just go to our website, you can see the article there. Under our help and resources section on our website, we have a lot of guides and templates and things like that, which you might find quite useful as well yourself. For example, things like making a subject access request, which is where you can go to your landlord and you can force them to hand over all of the information that they hold about you. You can get them to hand it over to you. So if they're denying that you made a complaint to them or something, you know, last year, you can actually put in a subject access request, and by law they have to provide you all of the information that they hold on you, and you will specify, you will say, oh, you know, between these dates or about this particular subject. So we've just got, you know, guidance about doing that, guidance about reporting, writing a complaint, because you would always start with a complaint to the landlord themselves. Even if you don't believe that the landlord will do something about it, you always have to start with a complaint to the landlord. So we've got some guides like that. But I think the thing that is the most important really is about how to develop and plan a sustained campaign. And we can provide training on this. So if a group would feel it would be helpful, we can provide training on this specific aspect, which is the campaigning side of it. But what we do is talk about how to set up a group, how to hold effective meetings. Setting goals it's a kind of slogans and goals. It sounds really easy, but actually it's one of the areas that people really struggle with. So quite often they go for a goal that kind of takes them in the wrong direction, really. And it's something that you really have to think about and be really clear about what your goal actually is. Communication is another area where, you know, people, for example, will produce a poster or a flyer and try and cram in loads of information, and it becomes very difficult to read. So communication, we just give some really top tips. There's been loads and loads of research into how to communicate and what works and what doesn't. So we just take some of that and just gives like top tips really on how to set out your communications and how to do it. The best communication always is face to face, you know. So if you can get around your estates, meet with people, and it sounds like you are having a lot of face to face contact with the people that you're working with, that is the best way to kind of do your communications, or in meetings, and especially now that we can have in-person meetings. And then we give some advice about the strategies and tactics that you can use when you're campaigning, and how to sort of build an escalating kind of plan. So you start with something small. It might be a petition, it might be a letter to the local MP, something like that. Get everybody involved in doing it. But then you build up to a protest, you build up to a rent strike, you build up, you know, wherever you want to go, you're actually on an escalation, because that in itself creates a fear in the landlord's mind. Like today they did a petition. The day before that, they sent a letter to the MP. What are they going to be doing today? What are they going to be doing tomorrow? They start to expect that there is going to be this escalation and things are going to get worse and worse for them. You know, tomorrow they're going to be outside our front door. The day after that, they're going to be doing something different. So, it just gives a little bit of advice on the different kind of things that you really need to think about if you are trying to do a campaign. And hopefully that will be of some use to you. So I'm going to stop sharing there. I'm going to stop talking as well, because I'm sure you've heard enough of me by now. But I thought maybe if it's okay with Toby, if people do have sort of questions, then I can take some questions and then maybe sort of, provide some other guidance wherever it'd be most helpful to you. Does that sound okay, Toby?
That sounds really good. first of all want to say I really like that overview you gave, and I really like when you were saying about how building momentum and that putting fear in whether it's the council or landlords. And I like what you said about them thinking what they're going to do tomorrow and getting that momentum. And that is so good that we can, even though we are starting just on Twitter and emails, but then you can add in petitions and get kind of protests. And I thought you gave a really good overview there of the things you can do in terms of physically going to council offices and or housing association offices. And like you said, it all builds, but I love the fact that you were saying about it puts fear into them of what they're going to do tomorrow. And I think that's really good to hold on to, isn't it? Because it is unfortunately the way we have to do things, that you have to create a bit of fear in order for people, these organizations, to respond. And with that example you're saying about the scaffolding, and that just shows how powerful it can be when you take pictures and things like that. And also I thought those examples that you put up there were really good of showing persons the visual of someone's foot, saying, and the way it was an individual, but it didn't say who they were, but using that quote, I thought that's great, saying I was diagnosed with blah, blah, blah. I was meant to have this support put in place. It wasn't. And things like that, I think are great examples, because it's an individual, but that is relevant to so many people, and using an individual without going into specifically who they are. And if you do that, it can help so many people facing similar issues. So thank you very much for those examples. I thought they were great. So that's enough of me talking. I'm going to now offer it out there and see if anyone's got any questions on to Susie on particular, perhaps it's particular campaigns or topics, or any questions at all you'd like to ask. The floor is open.
Yeah, I would like to ask the Susan, the templates they give to us. It's can we can receive that template, or we can use it.
Yeah, all the resources on our website. If you look under the help section, and then there's resources. So all of and where they're template like letters, they're in Word format, so it's really easy for people just to be able to put your own details in. I mean, ours are a little bit geared towards housing associations. In some cases, it really doesn't make any difference. You can just change the details. But yeah, so yeah, feel free. And if there's anything that where you have a problem getting it, like I said, just email us and we can send it on to you by email as well.
That's great, thank you. And will we be able to get a copy of the presentation that was in?
Yeah, if you like, yeah,
of course. To refer to that, so we can use it as examples. Anyone else got a question? Oh, I think we've got a little bit of feedback. I'm just going to try. Yeah, I've just muted that one. Anyone else with a question? No. Okay, well, I'm just gonna tell everyone about, I'm gonna use this opportunity now then to find out about people's knowledge of Twitter. Because I'm thinking, we're moving closer and closer to actually starting our campaigning, and I've got all the contact details, I've got the Twitter handles, and we've got some great examples, and we could kind of replicate some of them. And I'm thinking of that example of that image of that person's foot, and I'm thinking, I want to make this really straightforward the first times we start campaigning, and then of course everyone will have the opportunity to get that momentum and get that fear factor going. But I'm thinking we're going to start it easily, and if you've got if we do something similar with images of people perhaps with mobility issues, that I know there's constant, I hear it a lot, that people don't either aren't rehoused, adequate housing, or they don't get the handrails in and things like that. So I think that'd be a great one to start off with. I just want to do a straw poll here and find out who in this group has used Twitter before or has a Twitter account. So it'd be great if you could just use the icon to just put your hand up now, so I get a little bit of an idea of who is familiar with Twitter. That's interesting that no one's using it. Okay, well, that's not a problem at all, because I'm going to be running a session, and it's next week, and it's going to be very interactive in terms of I'm going to get everyone there and then to sign up to Twitter, and I'm going to teach everyone, and we can start sending our first tweets actually in the Twitter session. But Joy, I'm just going to pick on you. Just I was just wondering how you're feeling about moving forward in terms of using Twitter and starting sending them out. Are you excited at the thought of that, or are you thinking, oh God, Twitter, what's going to happen? It'd just be great to know your sorts of thoughts at this point in time, that, you know, we've done the campaigning training and about advocacy, increasing your confidence, and then seeing today what Susie's been outlining. And how are you feeling about starting to campaign and send those first few tweets or emails? How are you feeling about it all?
Well, I was actually thinking while you were talking, after Susie did her presentation, that I'm probably going to need to talk to you one-on-one. I'm feeling a bit nervous about it. Okay. I definitely have to look into getting some more information, because obviously it's important to get the right information out there, you know, with the campaign. So I am a bit nervous about it, I have to admit. So you know, a few things were going through my mind when you were talking about what I'm going to have to do. And I know you said we're coming up to starting the campaign, so yeah, there's a lot to think about.
So are you able in this group setting to tell me a little bit what you're nervous about, or do you want that to be one-to-one?
Sorry, can you repeat that? You froze a bit.
I was just wondering, when you're saying you're getting a bit nervous about campaigning, is that something you're able to talk about a little bit in this group setting, or do you just want to discuss that one-to-one?
Hold on, I'm going to turn my camera off because I can't hear what you're saying. Hold on. Okay, go ahead.
Is that
Toby.
better now? Yeah. So I was just saying, I was interested to find out a little bit more about why you're feeling a bit nervous about campaigning. Is that something that you're comfortable talking about? Oh, and the lights have gone off it. Are you comfortable talking about in this group setting, or do you just want to talk about that one-to-one with me?
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me, Toby?
I can, yeah.
Hi,
can you hear
sorry,
me?
I don't know what's happened here. I can only hear bits of what you're saying. I think you're saying something about, am I comfortable talking with you, or?
Yeah, to the group about why you're feeling uncomfortable or nervous about campaigning, or is that something one-to-one? Oh dear, I think we're having some sound issues. Don't worry. Would anyone else in the group like to tell me how they're feeling about campaigning? I'm thinking maybe if I was in your shoes, and I'll tell you what I'm thinking perhaps some hesitation might be about treading on people's toes. And it is a bit of a precarious relationship we have with the council. So I'm thinking, you know, for example, I'm running this training about, we get some funding from Ealing Council, and I'm thinking you guys might get some as well. And you might be thinking, oh, if I say something negative on Twitter and I send it to a councillor, is this going to kind of jeopardize our relationship for funding and our relationship with the council? That's how I'm thinking. Perhaps, you know, I'm thinking a little bit, well, the council going to be really upset with us, me included, for running this training, because we're going to be making people, some key decision makers, feel uncomfortable. Because the good thing about Twitter is it's out there for everyone to read, and that's why it's so instrumental in making change, because people don't like it, the fact that everyone is able to see it and it's out there in the public domain. And so I'm thinking, oh, are the council going to be not happy that I've encouraged everyone to confront them? But the answer is, where this is, we're able to. This is what free speech is about. It's not something that we're not being personable. It's not a personable attack. It's, we're within our right to say to the council or councillors or staff members, why is this happening? Why are residents facing these issues? And I don't want anyone to feel that it's jeopardizing a relationship with the council. We're very fortunate that we're in this country, that we're allowed to do things like this, that we have freedom of choice and freedom of speech, and we really need to make the most of it to make change. And this is the way, this is the process that enables people who deserve to, who need their houses to be repaired, who need better housing, need to be rehoused. So I don't want, let me reassure people that it's not going to jeopardize relationships, and we must feel confident about that. Yusuf, you've got your hand up. Do you want to say something?
Exactly the way you say is right, but there's a variety of campaign you can do, and it's neutral. Even it's going to help the council. For example, we can, when we have an issue on a banning issue that is so prominent, and you know, and there's an obvious vulnerability, like if you have an issue housing a particular individual, individuals, then we can come together, we can discuss, and then we will target where we'll take it next. For example, the council, they usually have scrutiny banners that they meet during the week. Sometimes they meet during the week. So on that day, we can book them, they will allow you, and they usually used to have a gathering. People listen, public, they allow the public to join in during that time they are discussing. Also, they have special meetings with the councillors. They have special meetings day where the mayor usually talks. That day also we can go there. And also as an individually, the junior officers responsible for a department or a commissioner, we can book an appointment, we can go, and you know, in a civic way, to say this is an issue for the community, you can discuss. And then some of these things will also bring resolutions. So the last one of which is we can also do, and the one it will come to the conclusion too, is we can go as a group and come, you know, picket in front of the council in the evenings when the councillors are having their own meetings. They usually do that time. So councillors, they usually having their meetings 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Then we go with our banners, leaflets, blah, blah, issue of the day. We see that then everyone will, when they're going in, usually they will come and pass you, what is the day today? They will talk to you as an individual, what's this, is this. Then one of the councillors will invite you in. If not, we'll talk one-to-one while they're going in. So a variety of number, we can make a difference.
It sounds like you're feeling very confident, Yusuf, about it.
I did a lot of things, a lot of these things before. We did a lot of this.
Oh, right, that's good.
On the winter, we did it, and it had a lot of impact. I don't know, Toby, if you remember, there was a man who used to live in front of the council for ages, many years. Can you remember? He was always there. in the morning, in the evening. He
I
used to
don't
be in the
remember.
military before. He used to be in the military. Do you remember?
Right.
No,
No,
he stayed
but-
there for ages. Yes, yes,
Really?
because of Rebea. It resulted from a Rebea dam, and then he lost the whole property.
Right.
So eventually he got a place after those things. And then they said, you make yourself homeless. They said, you make yourself homeless. And then he said, you didn't come to Rebea. You didn't value me. That was the issue. Then he stayed long in front of the council. Every morning he sleeps there, he stays there. So we used to go and help him.
Right.
Through these channels we did, and then eventually he got. That
I
is one
see.
of the hardest campaigns in Iran I ever saw.
Well, that's great that you've got that experience, and I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone in the group's going to find that useful. So
They usually listen. They don't like
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
also after we exhaust all these apparatus we are talking, or these channels. Then if it goes to the media, they don't like it.
mm,
If we decide
Exactly.
to say let us put this case to the media, they don't like it.
yeah.
And if
So-
you put to the media, it's a matter of 1 day or 2 days.
Yeah.
They will bring a resolution.
Yeah. So Susie, do you want to kind of build on what I was saying to alleviate any concerns that people might have about campaigning? Because I'm thinking that might be in the back of people's heads. Are there some sort of do's and don'ts? Because I'm just thinking about just to make people feel even more confident. And, you know, my other do's and don'ts would be just things like get someone to read your tweets beforehand, and don't obviously no sorts of don't be aggressive in your tweets or your emails, but as long as you're polite and, like Yusuf was saying, act in a civic way, then I feel that, you know, that
For me, I'm not I'm a technology illiterate. These tools, some of the you're saying, but we have a caseworker we will use some of these skills with the frontiers. We will put into use. But the way I was speaking to you before, my way is conventional. So I was also contemplating which formula are we going to use? Are we going to have in Ely, for example, resident association, or can we say organizations, associations? Then are we going to have which one? Already you give us a housing, the action campaign, but are we going to have a resident association or organization association? Which formula are we going to use?
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is each organization is going to be tweeting from their own Twitter accounts as themselves, but we can do similar subjects at similar times. So perhaps 1 week we might want to talk about people with mobility issues who need to be rehoused. We could work out some themes, so we all tweet as our own organizations to create lots of noise, and then maybe another week something else. But I do want to make it flexible. If people have a particular concern in their own area, that they can tweet or email about something else. But yeah, and I just want to say I'm going to be here to discuss and help and support. So I don't want people to think that at the end of this training and the Twitter training, I'm not going to say, there you go, off you go. You know, we can have more meetings, discuss it, we can think about themes and build it from there.
Yeah, and Toby, just to come back in on what you were saying, I mean, I think, you know, the advice about not to make it personal is really sound. You know, we've never targeted any particular individual apart from the chief executives, and it's always on their track record. It's never anything personal about them. It's always on what they're doing with the organization. And I think a lot of what you're going to be doing is really factual stuff. You know, it is showing people who aren't able, you know, to get into their homes properly or are stuck on, you know, the 22nd floor because the lift is broken for the, you know, umpteenth time this month and things like that. You're going to be showing the facts about people's lives. You're just telling the truth about what people are having to endure. And you're only taking to Twitter or Facebook or whatever it is because the other methods haven't worked. It would be much easier if you could just pick up the phone and say the lift is working, the lift isn't working, and someone comes out and fixes it. You know, who wants to we don't want to do what we're doing, do we? We would rather things were really fixed. So we would only go to those methods, which is why I said, you know, we would always complain to the organisation first, the landlord first. And it's only if they don't fix the problem and don't engage and don't even show any interest, then we are forced to go to these other methods. And the message is, we will stop these other methods as soon as you start listening to us when we phone up and say something isn't working. You know, I can't remember who it was, but someone talked about really severe overcrowding. You know, if you resolve those, we will stop the other noise. It will all go away. You know, that's what we're saying to them, isn't it? So yeah, I mean, you know, it's just really stick to the facts. You're telling the truth. You're speaking truth to power. So just go out there and tell the truth about your situations, really.
And it's fair game, really, and none of us should be feel apprehensive if we do have any sort of funding links with the council. We are still able to criticize. It's, you know, where it's an open dialogue, isn't it? We're allowed with the council, or if it's a housing association, where everyone is entitled to have this sort of dialogue. And we're only going to these lengths, like you just said, Suze, because we can't, there's no response from picking up the phone. So everyone is entitled. So we shouldn't feel concerned about, you know, treading on toes and repercussions. We're entitled to do this, and we're only wanting what people deserve. So I think we should remember that the whole time in our campaigning. So we should not be concerned.
Toby, sorry to cut across. I'm going to have to go because I've got an 11:30 meeting, and I just need to make a really quick phone call before then.
Okay, no worries.
But I mean, it's been a real pleasure to hear all of the fantastic work, you know, you are doing. And I know a lot of you are doing this in your own time as volunteers, even if you're getting paid for it, I'm sure it's not enough. And you're still putting a lot of your own selves into this and your own time and energy into it. So, you know, that's what changes the world, really. So, you know, more power to your elbows, and do keep in touch with us, and do get in touch if you are running housing campaigns. Copy us into it, just send me an email about it, and we will put stuff out about it as well, and just make sure that you get a lot of extra publicity where we can, give you a bit more power, really. So thanks ever so much for inviting me. It's been a real privilege.
Thank you very much for your time. It's really insightful. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again soon.
Speak soon then, everybody.
Bye.
Take care.
Yeah, bye.
I'm just going to finish off with everyone else.
I would like to ask you one more question. It's I suggest, you know, that each organization they need what they call one monitor to help, you know, the campaign, you know, because most of them, they need sometimes, when I'm doing the campaign for English, we used to have some people, they come from university, they helping us. But if you provide some monitor, maybe it is more helpful, and the people, they're more comfortable to doing that when they're doing planning for the campaign planning, and also they're preparing an evidence, and also doing some research. Sometimes they're doing some case studies, and all that kind of, they need something in the place. But if you provide that one, is also it's more helpful. Yeah.
Okay, well, what we do is also, I just want to find out the format of this, because everything's been online, and we've got next week, next Tuesday, we've got a session with Housing Action Southwark and Lambeth. That's going to be a shorter session, and then I'm going to start doing my Twitter sessions, and we've got another one on Thursday. Now, how does everyone feel about doing this online? Is it helpful if we all meet face-to-face in West Ealing Library, or is it more convenient to carry on these sorts of sessions online? How's everyone feeling? Do you just want to shout out if you're happy with it all online, or if anyone is keen to meet face-to-face, do you want to just...
For me, face-to-face, for me.
It's good?
Face-to-face is good, yeah.
Okay. Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? Because also I think it will give us an opportunity to kind of share insight with one another. And I think we should have a more of a workshop and you can ask me questions. So what I'll do, I'll get some dates. So we've got the 2 sessions next week, and then which we'll still do online. We'll have kind of a week for you to go away, start your tweeting and emails, and then I'll organize another session here at West Ealing Library. You can all come in, we'll have a workshop. You can tell me any areas you're struggling with or want any more suggestions. So what about times? Is this time, is our mornings best? Again, sort of 10:30 to 12, one day in a couple of weeks. Is that a good slot, or when's good for everyone?
It's this time is fine. Yeah.
These times.
For me, it's not. I'm carer for my mom, so that's why it's easy to be on Zoom. That I can be able to do that. That's why I'm volunteer into different community. But as I said, it face-to-face is very good. As I said, it's kind of like special when you said you're going to teach us about Twitter, how to use it, like visualize. But if it's late afternoon, then I don't need to worry about it. As I said, if it's some mornings, I'll be able to make it, or maybe the other colleague, you can also try to make it. But Zoom, for me, I find it easy, but still I want to do face-to-face, especially when it comes to practice, as when the dyslexia is visualizing, it'll be easy to help.
Yeah. Okay, what we'll do is if there's any times you can't make it, we can just Zoom you in, so we can have, a hybrid. We'll have a session here, but then we'll make sure that you can access it if you can't make it in person. So don't worry about that. We'll sort something out there. So Joy, if you want to drop me an email and let me know when you're available, if you want a Zoom one-to-one, and we can have another chat and I'll reassure you, and yeah, I'll see how you're going. But if there's not any other questions, then we can finish here. And then I look forward to seeing you all next Tuesday to find out. It's a similar session to what we did today from Housing Action Southwark and Lambeth. They do some really interesting things with like Twitter storms. When there's been, I know they did a great one. They got some kids to draw pictures of their overcrowded bedrooms and sent that to the council. They do some really great stuff. And we can copy that, which makes life easier. So I will see you all next Tuesday, and yeah, look forward to seeing you all then.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.